Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to the Bayat Al Ghadeer channel. This is your host, Sayyid Hassan Bukhari, and we are doing a series on Nawasib. It's a continuation of the series, the same team are together, alhamdulillah, to discuss it. Today, we shall be talking about the influence of Nawasib when it's come to Hadith narration. Just in terms of a background, it is important to understand that these were collected during a period when Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was being publicly cursed during the Umayyad reign. That's something that Shibli Numani himself acknowledges in Sirat al-Nabi. So this is something that gives us a bit of a background and understanding. And when we look at how Nasbis have influenced Hadith collections amongst the Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, you will see it's important to understand the era in which those narrations were collected. And that also has an influence because this is an era like, and I've said it in many shows before, it's an era in which generations were brought up on a hatred of Amir al-Mu'mineen through this public cursing. And it's during this very era that hadiths were collected, and obviously the science of Rijal was also put together. So when you look at gradings of individuals to ascertain whether they were authentic, truthful, unreliable, liars, also had this backdrop, which is why we see this nexus between Nasbism and Al-Sunnah Hadith collection, how they were viewed very differently to those who were individuals that praised the Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam. One party was treated very favorably and treated with respect, and almost, even if they had these derisive viewpoints, that was fine. It was a blot on their character, but nothing to worry about, unlike those who praise Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam. So that will be the purpose of our discussion today, inshallah ta'ala. Brother Zadi, assalamu alaikum, and over to you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Thank you so much, Sayyid Hassan. I want to mention that what Ibn Salah has given as conditions for taking or deeming a narrator to be thiqa. So Ibn Salah has mentioned 5 points in his book Ulum al-Hadith, page number 104, right? So those points, let's see those points, and let's then see that how the scholars of Ahl Sunnah, are they consistent with it or not? Or have they have two different standards for the people that abuse Amir al-Mu'mineen and people that have some sort of hatred for the first 3 caliphs? So Ibn Salah says, أجمع جماهير أئمة الحديث والفقه على أن يشترط فيما يحتج بروايته أن يكون عدلا ضابط لما يرويه وتفصيله أن يكون مسلما بالغا عاقلا سالما من أسباب الفسق. Right? What does he say? That he needs to be a just person, he must be truthful in what he narrates, he must be an adult, he must be intelligent, and he must be free from fisq, evil deeds, right? Allama Shamsuddin Zahabi, in his book Kitab al-Kabair, one of the books that he has written on the major sins, right? And what does he say? How does he define abusing any companion, right? He says that in Kitab al-Kabair, page number 250, and whosoever condemns, abuses, or curses them, like companions, right? Any one of them, he has left the religion of Islam and abandoned the creed of Muslims. So see, like any companion, like there's no stipulation that should be Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Amir al-Mu'mineen, any companion. If someone abuses, then obviously they are outside the fold of Islam. Let's see what Ibn Ma'in has said in his book. It's Tarikh Yahya bin Ma'in, volume number 1, page number 394. Ibn Ma'in said, everyone who curses Uthman, Talha, or any of the companions of the Prophet is a Dajjal, extreme liar. Reports are not to be documented from him, and upon him is the curse of Allah and the angels and all of mankind. See, so really, really strong things have been said against the person who abuses even Uthman or Talha. No, not even Abu Bakr and Umar. Lastly, we have Imam Shawkani. Imam Shawkani, in his Al-Fath al-Rabbani, the book that contains his fatwa, page 873 to 876, he said there is proof It is proven that Nasbi is someone who has grudge for Imam Ali, and it is proven without doubt with Sahih Hadith, which clearly say in book of Hadith that his, which means Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wassalam, grudge is hypocrisy and kufr. Then he further says, so it is proven that being jealous from him is being jealous from Allah and His Prophet, and being jealous from Allah and His Prophet is kufr, right? Then he mentions some of the name of the books where it's supposed to be mentioned. And then he says, in this regard, there are many hadiths from chains to Sahaba, and the amount is sufficient. You know, the turuq, or the number of people that have narrated this hadith, are so much that it is easily established that a Nasbi is a kafir. So if someone calls a person Ya Nasbi, it means that he is a kafir, which means what it is, Ya kafir, right? So let's suppose if I say Ya Nasbi, it clearly means that I'm calling someone as kafir, right? So you can clearly see that the rules that they have established, and inshallah we will expound on this more, and we will see that there are some rules that they have made in books that seems to be really good, but when it comes to practical application, how disastrous the applications are. Unfortunately, you would see, like whatever we have said, we have established a reality that anyone who abuses any companion is outside the fold of Islam. But do the Sunnis actually apply this standard? Do the Sunnis actually consider Nawasib as kuffar? We have a clear hadith in Sahih Muslim that says that Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wassalam said that, you know, like anyone who quotes Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam marfu'an, that only a believer would love Amir al-Mu'minin and a munafiq would hate Amir al-Mu'minin, right? So here we can clearly see that what are the standards that Ahl Sunnah scholars have established, and inshallah during the course of the show you will see double standards. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah Sayyid Zadi, that really sums up the issue. Now we understand who are deemed authentic narrators, you know, what the standard is, the criteria that they should adhere to. And when it comes to individuals that disrespect the Sahaba, it's used, looking at it at face value, one would conclude that they are automatically knocked out of in terms of any reliability criteria. They are individuals which bear a grudge against those that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala see in the companions who they deal with high regard, and as such, those which bear this grudge, they are knocked out completely. Their narrations should be taken out of the equation, because essentially these narrators, individuals have graded people that disrespect the Sahaba as Dajjal, or out of the fold of Islam. Same with the Nawasib. Nawasib are individuals which bear a grudge against Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam. So they are de facto munafiq. And there's something that Allama Shawkani made this very, very clear in terms of identifying who Nawasib are. And I know that some of our polemical opponents in this day and age try to do tawil over that narration and say, oh, if you hate Amir al-Mu'minin for political reasons, it's all good, we're all friends, there's nothing to worry about, doesn't affect your iman. Allama Shawkani didn't agree with that point. So now the question is there any inconsistency in this Sunni school of thought when it comes to those that were disrespectful for, let's say, the Shaykhain, the first two caliphs, or Usman, the first three? Were they treated differently, those narrators who treated them with disrespect? What about those that treated Amir al-Mu'minin with disrespect? Was he treated in the same way? Let's have a look now. So this is over to you, Brother Daniel, to talk about Nawasib Hadith narrators.
All right, assalamu alaikum, everybody. What I'm going to do is just read a few examples from the Sunni books where people in the chains of narrations are clearly declared of Nawasib. And I'll make a beginning with Abdullah ibn Shaqiq al-Aqili, who reported from al-Mizzi from the book Tahdib al-Ahkam, volume 2, page 353, that Abdullah ibn Shaqiq al-Aqili, Abu Abdurrahman ibn Sa'ad, mentioned him in the first generation as a tabi'i from al-Basra. Umar narrated that Abdullah ibn Shaqiq was Uthmani and he was trustworthy and narrated sound hadith. Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, trustworthy and used to hate Ali alayhi salam. He used to hate him. Ibn Khuzaymah narrates that Ibn Ma'in said about him, trustworthy, and he was Uthmani, and he used to hate Ali, alayhi salatu wasalam. Ibn Uday said, Inshallah, there is nothing wrong in this hadith. Abu Hatim narrates that Abu Zura said, trustworthy. Al-Jili said, trustworthy, and he used to hate Ali, alayhi salam. Next, we have Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, famous one, from Taqrib al-Ta'dib, Volume 2, page 353 to 354. Abdullah ibn Shaqiq al-Aqili, he's from Basra, he's trustworthy and a Nasibi. He belongs to the third generation and died in the year 108 after the Hijrah. Muhammad bin Khalifa al-Rabah, the Salafi Sheikh, has written a book in praise of this Nasibi, calling him the great Tabi'i, and later stating the following. Abdullah ibn Shaqiq, may Allah be pleased with him, he adds, right, for Nasibi in his book, Nasb al-Majniq, لنفس ما عثر من شبهات حول ما حكاه التبعي الجلي Abdullah ibn Shaqiq on page 17. Then we have Asad ibn Wada', about whom Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says in Lisan al-Mizan, volume 1, the person number 1108 in his list on page 93, said that Asad ibn Wada' Shami, from the late generation of Tabi'in, Nasibi, and used to curse. It's obvious whom he used to curse. Ibn Ma'in said he and Ashad al-Harani and others used to curse Ali alayhi salam. And Al-Nasai said trustworthy. That is all from the rest of Ibn Ma'in's narration from Madurai. Thawr was not cursing Ali alayhi salam, so when Thawr rejected to curse Ali alayhi salam, they pulled him from his legs. Ibn Hibban mentioned him in Al-Thuqat, the authenticated ones, and said he narrates from Shahad bin Uwais, and the people of Syria narrated from him. He was a worshipper. He was killed in the year 136 or 137 Hijri. Abu Hatim said Muawiyah ibn Salih, Faraj ibn Fadala, and Jabir ibn Ghanam narrated from him. The next person, Asad ibn Musa, about whom Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani again says in Tahdib al-Tahdib, volume 1, page 133, narrated in Sahih Bukhari, Sunan al-Nasa'i, Sunan Abu Dawud. Asad ibn Musa ibn Ibrahim ibn Walid ibn Abdul Malik ibn Marwan al-Amawi al-Nasa'i said trustworthy. Ibn Yunus ibn al-Qanai al-Ijili and al-Ba'as said trustworthy. Al-Bazaz said trustworthy. Ibn Hibban mentioned him in Al-Thuqat, and Al-Khalili said he was a pious Egyptian, right? Next we have from Al-Mizzi, who quoted Al-Bukhari saying about this person, his narrations are renowned, and he's given the title of the Lion of Ahl Sunnah in Tahdib al-Kamal, volume 2, page 513. So this person who used to curse Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is called the Lion of the Sunnah. You have to let that sink in for a minute, I think. It's really amazing what these people are able to say about such people. So next we have Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said Asad ibn Musa ibn Ibrahim ibn al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik ibn Marwan al-Muwawi also says the Lion of Ahl Sunnah, right? The Lion of Ahl Sunnah, truthful but narrated unique or strange narrations. There is Nasb in him. So it's perfectly fine to be a Nasibi, and he could still be the Lion of Ahl Sunnah. Belongs to the 9th generation, died in the year 212 after Hijrah, and he was 80 years old, which is in Taqrib al-Tahdib, person 399 on page 43, 44. Then we have Bilal ibn Abu Huraira. Ibn Askir says in Tarikh al-Asakir, volume 10, which find the quote on page 521, Bilal ibn Abu Huraira al-Dusi, companion of the Prophet ﷺ, he was present at the Battle of Siffin with Muawiyah, and he appointed him as a leader over some of his soldiers. Abu Ubaidah narrated, the leader of the left side troops of Muawiyah's army was Bilal ibn Abi Huraira al-Dusi at the Battle of Siffin in Tarikh al-Asakir, volume 10, chapter 979, page 522. The next one is Al-Dahabi, who said that he narrated from his father, the father of the cat, Abu Huraira. Those who narrated from him, Al-Shu'bi, Yaqub ibn Muhammad ibn Talha, and more. He participated in the Battle of Siffin with Muawiyah and lived till the reign of Sulayman, which is said in Tariq al-Islam, volume 6, person 225, on page 305. Then we have Ibn Hibban quoting about him in Al-Tuqat, volume 4, page 65. Bilal ibn Abi Huraira narrates the story of the Dajjal of his father. Ash-Shubi narrated of him. And last but not least, we have Habis ibn Sa'ad, about whom Al-Mizzi said in Ta'dib al-Kamal, volume 5, person 990, page 183 to 184. Habis ibn Sa'ad, they say he was a companion and he fought in the Battle of Siffin alongside Muawiyah. He was a commander of the foot soldiers and was killed on that day. Muhammad ibn Sa'ad, when mentioning the names of the companions who visited Syria, mentioned Habis ibn Sa'ad al-Da'i among them. Abu Za'ra, whilst mentioning the companions, the Ansar, and the tribes from Yemen visited Syria, cited Habis ibn Sa'ad al-Yamani. Right? So I'll leave the listener and the viewer with what to make out of these praises of people who openly cursed or fought or both Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam, and who are still referred to as the Alliance of Ahl Sunnah. I think everybody with an unbiased view will make up his mind about these things.
Jazakallah, Brother Daniel, for expounding on those points. What do we really learn? I think very much, often I have to say, I've often pondered over why there is this desire to defend Nawasib, Hadith narrators, and almost exonerate them for the sin of cursing Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam, and having that grudge. Everything seems to be just, watered down. That there's always some mitigation to try and make us pleasant chaps with a grudge against Amir al-Mu'minin, but it's nothing to worry about. Why do they adopt such an approach? The fact of the matter is, we can see from the identity of some of these narrators, which Brother Daniel mentioned, they were Sahaba. They were individuals which sat in the midst of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if there is a need to defend Nawasib, it's very much linked to the same thing. They have to defend the Sahaba too. Since they have a doctrine that all the Sahaba are just and truthful, it goes hand in hand. When you've got a Sahaba that is a Nasbi, that bears grudge against Amir al-Mu'minin in his heart, it's essential that they have to grade that Sahaba, that Nasbi narrator, even if he's a Sahaba, as truthful, as just, and to even being a Nasbi, that doesn't negate that. It shouldn't negate that, because the premise of their school of thought is that all the Sahaba are truthful and just. The fact that the Sahaba is a Nasbi should not be taken as a blot on his character, because by any means necessary, they have to defend that stance. So when you wonder, I have to say, I've often pondered why there's this desire to defend Nawasib. It's because there were Sahaba who weren't Nawasib, and they were Hadith narrators. So it's essential to protect that position, because your base is around the Sahaba. If you start attacking Nawasib, who are Sahaba, and saying that they're liars, therein falls the whole house that you've built. The foundation is that all the Sahaba are just and truthful. If suddenly you're going to say this guy isn't truthful because he used to curse the fourth caliph, then where does that leave your position that all the Sahaba are truthful? So I think that's where it all falls down. So they have to protect that. By any means necessary, they have to keep that foundation up, no matter how absurd that is. I think we'll move over to Sayyid Zadi, who will, inshallah, provide us with some more treats from Hadith narrators.
Thank you so much, Sayyid Hassan. I want to introduce about Busr bin Abi Arta. All right, this is Busr bin Arta. Depends, like in different books, we have different ways of it being pronounced. Sometimes with Abi Arta and sometimes without Abi, right? So Busr was a famous companion, right? Unfortunately, I think if I'm not wrong, he has even quoted a hadith from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm not really sure about that. We can check about it, but I do think so. I read somewhere. Busr is a famous companion, but unfortunately, while he was a companion, but some of the stuff he has done are very nasty. You know what? A few days back, I was researching on the topic, and the topic was about the way he treated the people of Yemen. Yemen has always been a place where the Shias of Ahlul Bayt used to reside. Banu Hamadan were from Yemen. Yemenites, they were from Yemen. Banu Hamdan had special bonding, special love for Amir al-Mu'mineen. And same Banu Hamadan were one of the front or the torch bearers when they were fighting against Muawiyah in Battle of Siffin. So see, there was a special grudge or the special hatred that the Nawasib had for Banu Hamadan and for people of Yemen. And at that time, when Amir al-Mu'mineen was ruling, he appointed Ubaidullah ibn Abbas. Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib had few sons. So one of them was Abdullah, the famous Ibn Abbas, as we say, Abdullah ibn Abbas. The other one was Ubaidullah ibn Abbas. So Ubaidullah ibn Abbas was in Yemen, but unfortunately, at that time, what Muawiyah was doing, or like what I would say that the footprints for Daesh, what Daesh do, they don't come in the main field and fight most of the time. What they try to do is that, they will hit someone and run, more like guerrilla tactics, right? So they would attack the points where they know there's less presence of army there or the less presence of security there. They will come and attack that place and then they will run back. So this is what Muawiyah was doing. Muawiyah was trying to incite people, obviously, to against Amir al-Mu'mineen. That's a given thing. In the meantime, he also wanted to instill fear among the Shias of Ahlul Bayt, among the followers of Ahlul Bayt, among the people that loved Ahlul Bayt, and also among the common public that were living under the leadership of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So he had his army, or he had his people attack Anbar. Anbar is obviously in the west of Iraq. They have a province, Anbar. At that time too, it was under Islamic governorship. So he has his army attack Anbar. He has his army attacking what? His battalion attacking Medina. He has his army attacking Yemen. But the way he attacked Yemen was the most disturbing act that he has ever committed. And who was the person that was attacking Yemen? It was actually Busr bin Abi Arafah. Busr was the person who was in charge of attacking Yemen. So see the shaqawa, see like how much hatred they had for the people, that when he came in, he couldn't find Ubaidullah. And one of the tactical mistakes Ubaidullah did, we have to be fair, that Ubaidullah, instead of defending Yemen, he came and, he actually, left Yemen so that he could be saved. But unfortunately, what happened was that when Busr bin Abi Arafah attacked Yemen, he actually killed two young babies of Ubaidullah ibn Abbas. And because of this, the wife of Ubaidullah ibn Abbas, she lost her mind. I could not even mention the way Ubaidullah ibn Abbas committed that specific act that led both of those kids, slaughtered. Inshallah, if we have time, and inshallah, if we can do in future, we can go through more details about it. And in that way, we can go through this passage of the history too, that the way Muawiyah used to attack different areas that were under control of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So Busr was always the leading head. And this is the same Busr that even in Tarikh al-Tabari, Tarikh al-Umam wal-Mamluk by Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Ibn Jarir al-Tabari has mentioned a lot of these things. And even the companion Qais bin Sa'ad bin Ubadah, Sa'ad bin Ubadah, the famous person who didn't give bay'ah to Abu Bakr, he had a son called Qais. Qais was also a companion. Qais also, in one way or another, ridiculed or said bad things about Busr because of the character he had and because of the hatred that he had against Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. So this was just like a small introduction of this quote unquote a really famous companion, or I would say a just companion, because you can't say companions are not just, right? Unfortunately, if you are talking as a sunnah, right? So all companions are just, all companions are to be followed. They're like stars. So this is one of the stars that you have to follow. Now I will leave upon Brother Daniel to explain it further through books. Therefore, just like a general introduction that I thought was important to give. Go ahead, brother.
Right. Thank you for introducing this lovely individual to us and the audience. I think there's nothing more to be added, even though you already said there's more about this character to be said. Yeah, really a catastrophe that some people are forced to invoke Allah's blessing on such a person who's actually killing babies. And this Busar ibn Irtad, or Busar ibn Abi Irtad, was mentioned, for example, by Ibn Athir in Usud al-Ghaba fi Ma'rifat al-Sahaba, in volume 1, page 374. He attended Siffin along with Muawiyah, and he showed hostility towards Ali alayhi salam and his companions. And likewise, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says about him, Taqrib al-Tahdib, person 636, on page 60. Busr ibn Irtad, and some say Ibn Abi Irtad, his name is Umar ibn Uwaymar ibn Umran al-Qurayshi al-Amiri. He's from a small group of companions who migrated to Syria. So he just mentions that he migrated to Syria, but in regards of the political circumstances of that time, it's pretty clear why people would migrate to Syria intentionally to commit further atrocities against the followers of Amir Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam.
Thank you very much, Brother Daniel, for shining a light on this Nasb. And I think we have another Nasb in the pipeline that Brother Sayyid Ali wants to introduce to our audience. Sayyid Ali, please, let's learn about another Nasb narrator who had a very respected status amongst Sunni Hadith recorders.
Assalamu alaikum. I think you brothers did actually done an amazing job in introducing these individuals and their role, and the fact that, you know, the criticism of certain narrators was essentially in a period in which Imam Ali alayhi salam was, you know, being cursed and insulted, and not just Imam Ali alayhi salam, but other members of the Ahl al-Bayt as well, alayhi salam. So, yeah, as you mentioned, these individuals, they were Nasbis, and according to Imam Shawkani, they'll be deemed as kafir. Nevertheless, that didn't stop Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah from narrating from these individuals. In fact, these individuals didn't even oppose their whole principles in terms of who they considered to be reliable or not. There's certain conditions which Sayyid Zedi mentioned at the start. So continuing on, you know, in reference to these Nasbis, who, by the way, narrated within the 6 major works. Let's have a look. So this is another individual, Khurayz ibn Uthman, and this is from Al-Dhahabi's book Al-Kashif, Al-Kashif, volume 1, person number 986, page number 319. And around this, about this individual, it says he was trustworthy, narrated around 200 hadith, and he's a Nasbi, and he died in the year 163 AH. Now we'll come to the next individual. Ibn Hajar Asqalani mentioned this in his book At-Tahzib al-Tahzib, volume 1, page number 375, 377, and Al-Bukhari and the 4, meaning Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Nasi, Ibn Majah, they narrate from him. Ibn Muwadda said, I don't think I saw someone in Sham better than him. I'm just going to stick to the parts which are highlighted in red, because these are the most important points. Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, Huray's hadith is authentic, but he hated Ali alayhi salam. And Ijli said, trustworthy, and he hated Imam Ali. So imagine how the same thing was said about Abu Bakr. Trustworthy, and he hated Abu Bakr, or trustworthy, he hated Umar, or trustworthy, or he hated Aisha or Osman or whoever. What would people of the opposing faction think about that? So it continues, and it says, Khurayz ibn Uthman said, the tradition, what the people narrate of the Holy Prophet, said, Ali to me is what Harun was to Musa, is right. The narrator had it wrong. It's actually, Ali is to me what Qarun was to Musa, and we know Qarun was the enemy of Musa alayhi salam. So this is a man who was essentially distorting the hadith of the Holy Prophet, and he was an Nasbi and still considered trustworthy, and praised as well by the Imams of Ahl Sunnah. Ibn Habban narrated that he used to curse Ali 70 times a day and 70 times a night. So that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. Imagine if he cursed Abu Bakr and Umar 70 times, 70 times a day and night. I'm sure the ruling on him would be something quite different. Another individual, Kathir ibn Shahab, Ibn Athir, mentioned in his book Tariq al-Kamil, volume 3, page number 278, and it says, and when Mughira ibn Shu'bah was put in charge of Kufa, Kathir ibn Shabab was put in charge of Ray, and he used to curse Ali abundantly. Ibn Sa'd says about him in Tabqat ibn Sa'd, volume 8, page number 2870, page number 270, that he narrated traditions from Umar ibn Khattab, and he was one of Muawiyah's ibn Abu Sufyan's governors. Let's come back to the core point. This is from Al-Mustadrak, volume 3, page number 133, hadith number 4624. Abu Dhar al-Ghafari, may Allah be pleased with him, said that the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, said, O Ali, one who leaves me has left Allah. O Ali, one who leaves you has left me. So essentially, one who leaves Ali alayhi salam has left Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Move on to another tradition, narrated by Ahmed ibn Hanbal. Tradition is Hassan, and in Kitab Fadail al-Thahaba, page number 639. Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari, may Allah be pleased with him, said, O group of Ansar, we used to spot the hypocrites only by their hatred towards Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So, some of these people who often say, oh, well, the only reason why Imam alayhi salam's love was a sign of whether somebody was a hypocrite or not was the fact that he was very firm in his approach in terms of his implementing the religion. Though technically that's true to some point, but also by the love of Ali alayhi salam, it was a way of identifying the hypocrisy that was found in certain individuals. Hassan Bari, I just want to pass on to you now, inshallah. I'll leave it for you to conclude.
Jazakallah, Sayyid. Thank you very much. I think there's a point I wanted to just make. One of those hadith narrators say that you mentioned, he would actually quote a hadith in praise of Rasulullah, in praise of Amir al-Mu'mineen incorrectly. You are to me as Harun is to Musa, and he said Harun is to Musa. So that automatically renders him a liar, does it not? How can someone be a reliable hadith narrator when he's actually attributing a false hadith to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Just a point to ponder, because they said these guys never lied. Well, he clearly did. He even, remember there's hadith which says anyone that attributes a lie to me is in hellfire. It's accepted by both sects. This guy is openly attributing a lie to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, slandering Amir al-Mu'mineen, and yet it doesn't impact on him being a truthful man. It doesn't impact on hadith being taken from him. And that sums up the problem that we have. You see, I mean, when we come to the issue of Nawasib and this almost relationship that was forged over centuries between Nawasib and the Al-Sunnah sect in terms of hadith narration, hadith collection, hadith recording, these texts, they had such their DNA is all over the footprint of Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. If you look at their texts, you can't separate the two. And this is the problem that we have. Why do we have this issue? Our concern is you are the same individuals, and I've seen it right now, this day and age, we're seeing propaganda from our polemical opponents. We've always said we are individuals which always talk about understanding one another's beliefs. We can certainly, we have differences, we accept that, we also have commonalities and we can work together. These individuals on certain channels, they try their hardest to push for, under no circumstances should there be any form of unity with the Shia, because one of the things they say, I remember when, it's just it's a political march, but the Quds rally is an opportunity for people from sects is irrelevant. It's on the Palestinian issue, for example, there's an invitation for people to attend. I've seen these individuals saying, we would never stand with individuals who say bad things about Abu Bakr or Osman. That's a no-no. Why should we? It's funny, isn't it? That's the position you take. You take a position under no circumstances will you share a platform with the Shia at all, because of their viewpoint about the caliphs. This is an example. But when it comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, there were no such reservations amongst your hadith scholars. That you had no problem whatsoever sitting with them, taking hadith from them, and respecting them, rating them, giving them accolades, such as lines of al-Sunnah. So, you've given them, you've showered accolades upon them, and yet when it comes to the Shia, you won't even share a platform. There could be something common. We could have commonality. Oh, no, you say bad things about the Sahaba. But it's quite all right for those that attribute lies to Amir al-Mu'mineen, alayhi salatu wasalam, to lie to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who hate Amir al-Mu'mineen. All of these are the signs of a munafiq. And yet, you stay with them. You have a relationship with them. How on earth is that possible? Does that not, is there not hypocrisy in that position that you take? And one thing is you take hadith from them. You don't take a neutral viewpoint, do you? You've rated them as lines of al-Sunnah, and you've said words like radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So you have this respect for them, even though you know that they're Nawasib, and the sign of a hypocrite is hatred of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Everything is fine. Everything is fine and dandy when it comes to Nawasib. It's interesting, isn't it? When we read Salat, and in the Salat we're very clear that, part of Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim Sirat al-Lazina Anamta Allahim Ghair al-Maghdubi Allahim al-Adwalin. We stay aloof from those that have incurred the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Guide us on the straight path and stay away from those who have incurred the wrath of Allah. Now, you tell us now, hand on your heart, are those that are Nawasib, have they not incurred the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes or no? And if they have, obviously because they're munafiqs, but despite that, your ulama sat with Nawasib, took hadith from them, and gave them accolades. What does that tell you about your sect? You have this position of hatred against the Shia, for their position, their critical stance of the Sahaba, certain individuals that you deem Sahaba, which we have umbrage with, based on historical facts. And when it comes to individuals hating Amir al-Mu'mineen, for no real reason. I mean, the reason that one of the people on your channel said, oh, he killed their ancestors. Well, those ancestors weren't really pious believers, were they? He killed them in battle. They were the enemies of Islam. All of that's fine. When it comes to hating Amir al-Mu'mineen, everything is fine. It's to do with the heart. They can be forgiven. Even the hadith can be interpreted differently because obviously they're Nawasib, but we've taken hadith from them and they're jolly good individuals. What hypocrisy. And that's essentially what we've tried to sort of, stress here. That you've got to be consistent. If you hate the Shia and you deem us infidels because of our position on certain individuals that you revere, why is it that you've not taken the same stance on Nawasib? And I think that concludes things for this evening. Jazakallah, thank you for listening. Obviously, we need your support. Subscribe, listen, share. Share our content. Remember us in your du'as as we shall remember you. Salamun alaikum.